I've been watching this TV show for a few years now. I think they're on like third, fourth year. I've known the Papernys for a long time, for many years actually, and they've done all sorts of productions. They do a lot of different food shows. So aside from Eat Street, the one with Bob Bloomer, what was that called again? That's the Glutton for Punishment, right? So they've done that one. They're now actually about to do Chopped. There's a whole bunch of different things coming out. As far as the food trucks go, Eat Street has really taken hold. I mean, it's pretty exciting. It's a fun show to watch, and they're always traveling all over North America. And they're trying all sorts of different restaurants and cuisines. They're featuring a lot of Vancouver food trucks, which is great to see. So it's always kind of fun to watch. And I'm sure a lot of people that have started food trucks now have been watching that show. So I thought what better thing to do is to have Audrey speak about Eat Street and the show they created and where it's where it is now, where it's going. Please join me in welcoming Audrey Mehler.
Thank you, Richard. As he mentioned, I'm not a food truck vendor. I'm a television producer with a background in documentary filmmaking. We basically tell human stories. We hope they're on the cutting edge and visually entertaining. Back in 2009, we had no idea there was a food truck revolution going on. I was down in LA with my partners, David Paperny and Kausha with their own business. We arrived late, we were looking for a place to eat. I'm on my phone looking for some top-end Italian restaurant, and we're driving past a gas station with a food truck, and David's like, "Oh, I've always wanted to eat there." And I'm like, "All right, dear, if you've always wanted to eat there, we should go eat there." And he just took this big U-turn, and the next thing we know, we're parked in front of a food truck in a gas station. They're serving Mexican food, obviously, in LA. And like Jason Apple's wife, Jennifer, we discovered the food truck movement in Los Angeles. And of course, David documented it with his camera. We came back to our development team in Vancouver and showed them where we were, what we ate, and what it was like. And they sort of found out, did what they do best, research, and discovered that there's stuff happening. It was mainly happening in the States. It was happening in Seattle, Portland, LA, Austin, New York. They went down to Seattle with a camera and visited the Skillet food truck, where a culinary school trained chef was making hamburgers and with a patented bacon jam that I think Martha Stewart advertised in one of her magazines. And Verace, run by a retired school teacher, probably laid off, who built his own clay pizza ovens and had the science down to take 60 seconds to make a pizza. And people were lined up for these trucks, and the food was beautiful, it was fresh, it was local, organic whenever possible, and people just ate it up, literally. So we obviously have a history with the Food Network. We've been producing series for them over a dozen years. And they were also looking for the next big thing, right? Television was changing, television viewing was changing. It's not appointment television anymore. You don't sit down for half an hour and watch your show. You're clicking constantly online, on air, on phone, whatever. So it's got to be fast. It's got to be snackable, as David says. And it's just, you dip in, you dip out. And so our concept for Eat Street was 4 food carts per episode, 5 minutes each, or give or take. And the beautiful thing about food truck vendors and the food cart movement is not only the food, which I'm telling you, I watch every episode. I finally put my foot down and said, no more screenings before lunch, because it was killing me. You just sit there, and it's beautiful looking food. But the people who run these carts all have an interesting story to tell. And we sort of were able to find a wonderful system to allow them to tell their stories while they're talking about their food and their passion. And that's what drives this whole thing, is really, you can be an accountant, you can be a school teacher, you can be a stay-at-home mom, and if you have a passion for food and creativity and an innovative entrepreneurial spirit, and obviously a little bit of money to invest. It's a real ticket, and there's a lot of opportunity out there. So we have found coast to coast, and more so now in Canada. When we first started out, this is our 4th season now. There wasn't a lot happening in Canada, but in season 4, every episode of Eat Street will have at least one Canadian food truck, which is a huge accomplishment. So there's certainly Vancouver. It's Heather, been a pioneer in putting us on the map that way. Edmonton, Calgary, and Toronto is, slowly coming along, but they're old and it's hard for them to change their ways. So, but we've, our truck scene here has really celebrated our culinary skill, and there's a lot of chefs who, as you said, were able to find their way through food trucks in a way that they couldn't through bricks and mortar restaurants. So we're thrilled to have been a part of that, and as I say, whenever there's an East Street screening, it's like, it's a very, very exciting project to have worked on. We have an incredible team, both in the field. It's a minimal team. I mean, these trucks are tiny, and usually there's like at least 3 people working inside, and then we insert our 3-person crew. We usually have a camera person with high-def but compact camera that can really go in close and deliver the most beautiful visuals you've probably ever seen of food. And our director, of course, who interviews both the vendors and the patrons. And there's always a food blogger who's going to tell you what the culinary features of the food are. So it's a wonderful system that we've got going. And then, of course, our editing team just has it down, and we cut it really fast, fun, with great graphics and music. We try to make it as entertaining as possible, and of course we're in our 4th season. It's premiering April 8th. That's next Monday on Food Network, and we're hoping to keep it going because it's been such a great vehicle for us, for the vendors, for the broadcaster, for the advertisers, for the viewers. It's a win-win-win situation. I should also say, as Clement was saying about the Tigre, that one of the things about the food truck revolution is that it's really been built on social media. He said that they weren't quite familiar with Twitter and Facebook when they started, and they opened up their truck and said, okay, we're here, and there was nobody there. So it became obvious, I think, to a lot of vendors that they needed to be tweeting and posting about their locations, especially if they're mobile, so that people out there would know where they are, and also that they'd have an online presence. And it's funny because Cal Shimiatra, our partner, used to walk around the office when we first got our green light from Food Network and said, gee, wouldn't it be great if we get an app where you could sort of turn on your phone and then find out where the nearest food cart was. And I'm like, yeah, this was like 2010, before everyone had an iPhone, and we didn't really take them very seriously. But then we were working with a woman named Alexandra Samuel, who was running the Social Interactive Media Center at Emily Carr, and she was consulting with us around how we could broaden our television programs onto multi-platforms, like what kinds of things we could do to get our shows out there. And when she heard Cal sort of mumbling about this app, she was like, wait a second, and she went back and she mocked up all these pages that illustrated how an app might work with should be a food cart locator. And we took her to Toronto, we put her in front of the Food Network, and we pitched the idea of having a companion app for the show. This was even before, we had delivered an episode, and they said, yeah, really good idea. So Alex got us in touch with Invoke Media, who were the designers of Hootsuite, among other things, Foodie, other social media vehicles. And it was a great partnership, and they really taught us the value of using social media for food trucks. And our app was launched concurrent with the launch of our first episode of season 1 in think it was April 2011, so 2 years ago. And it was a huge success. I think 100,000 downloads within the first 2 weeks. We've since had a second iteration of it that premiered along with our, season 3 last year in 2012. We had seasons 2 and 3 sort of. Season 2 premiered in fall of 2011, season 3 in spring 2012, and our second iteration of the app, where you could add your own cards and have a craving list and connect up with your social network. So it's sort of a much broader application of it. And so far we've had over 500,000 downloads. So that's been a fun add-on and also helped the carts quite a lot, because initially a lot of the food truck vendors were so busy cooking at night and serving during the day and then cooking again, and so they didn't really have a lot of time to tweet out to their patrons. But we encouraged them by saying, if you give us your data, we'll certainly put it on our app, and I think that helped their sales quite a bit. So they kind of twigged into the need for that social media aspect as well. What else can I tell you? I don't know, everyone said just about, Jason talked about the personalities. Our vendors have been, really the driving force for a lot of our stories, coupled with the food. And you talk about quirky. There's been incredible fusion, not only ethnic fusion with food, Korean tacos or meatball burritos or whatever it is, but you can get a Philly cheesesteak in Lansing, Michigan, or you can get a tuna tataki taco in Providence, Rhode Island. So unlikely, or what else do we have? Po' boy sandwiches in Portland, I think. So stuff that just sort of transplants across the continent, because people move around so much and they bring with them their culinary traditions. And so much of the recipes that we've found are sort of, this is what my mother used to make in the Philippines or in Korea or in Vietnam or in Cuba, so it's been a real fun education just in what's possible, and really any combination is possible. We've been stunned at some of the, as Heather was saying, the prevalence of bacon in everything, from jam to ice cream to waffles. Pork is really, really big in any form, so it's, but as Clement was saying, vegetarian also. So it just depends. It's just anything really goes. You just have to kind of tap into particular need in your market. I think that's everything I have to say, and I just want to give you a little taste of what our show looks like. He's our host. He's been traveling around New York. I didn't tell you about our cookbook. Oh my God. We have a cookbook. It's just out on the market in Canada, the US, and we're giving away one copy tonight, but it features 150 of our tastiest recipes from across North America, from all 4 seasons. It's published by Penguin Canada, and their imprint in the States, Pintail. It's gorgeous. We have incredible photography from a guy named Ryan Schultz in Toronto, and that was a fun experience. James is a stand-up comedian. He wrote the copy for the cookbook, so it's pretty entertaining. So it's available on Amazon, it's available in chapters, but it just, again, the food truck revolution, it lives on in many forms. Just have to watch the show Monday, April 8th on Food Network.